People were proud of us. You know, we were a band from New York that was this whole burgeoning new thrash metal thing.
I first met Anthrax when I was in Manowar. We were playing, and they're opening the shows for us.
It was very exciting back then because there wasn't any blueprints. It was just taking your influences and seeing what you come up with.
I always heard it in my head of the band that I wanted to sound like.
That was the beauty of back then, you know, the beauty of all of us just creating something special.
Back then, you know, everybody was into the metal brotherhood.
We were just trying to get on shows at this point.
There was the constantly hassling Johnny Z at shows to get signed to Megaforce.
We just felt that he was the guy that was going to get us out of it, you know, and help us to do this.
That's the guy. That's the guy we need to be in with. He knows what's happening.
Scott, for the most part, would want to take a drive out to Old Bridge, New Jersey. Johnny used to have a little set-up shop in like this flea market.
And it was like a stand in an indoor flea market, rock and roll heaven. I'm thinking like this could be some rad record store, you know, like Bleecker Bob's down in Greenwich Village. And you walk in, I'm like, the fuck is this place? People selling their fucking homemade needlepoint. Like, what is this?
You know, Johnny was doing things. He brought Venom over for the first time, which was like so awesome. He brought Anvil, Raven.
He loves these bands, and he brought them here. Like, he put his money where his ears are and brought these bands to New York. We're just like, put us on as the opener.
So he was taking chances because he got it.
So we would always bring the demos to Johnny, like whenever we had something new to play him.
And then he brought Metallica to New York.
I remember getting down there and walking in. He's like, "Oh my God," because we were friends now. And he's like, "Scott, I got this thing. Wait till you hear it. It's gonna blow your mind. I got this demo from this band, San Francisco. They're called Metallica. Do they have a record?" I goes, No, it's their demo tape. Wait till you hear this. It's mind blowing. He puts this fucking tape in. And it's just like, oh, hear the guitars, the song arrangements. It's just like the tightness of the band. I was blown away, and I fucking loved it. And at the same time, I was crazy jealous. Who are these guys? How old are they? He's like, they're the same as you guys, same age. Everything about it was better than where we were at as a band at that point, you know? Here's Johnny, like our guy, telling us, I'm bringing them to New York from San Francisco. And we're going to put them in the studio and make an album. And we're going to, you know, get them a record deal. And we're like, what? What about us?
Scott asked me, would I produce a couple of songs for them? I said, absolutely, I would.
By the time we had this lineup, the Fistful of Metal lineup, we were rehearsing in New Rochelle, New York, and writing a lot of music and rehearsing it and refining it.
We recorded it, Soldiers of Metal. It came out so good, so good.
We get up, we drive down to Jersey, because from where we were in Queens, it was like a solid hour 15 to drive down there. We get down there, we walk in, we go to Rock and Roll Heaven, and they're like, he's not here yet. He's at the IHOP across the parking lot having pancakes with Marcia and the kids. I was like on a mission, but I was also panicking. It was slipping through our fingers. Like, he's going to get too busy with Metallica, because it was obvious that was going to happen. I mean, we had just played 3 or 4 shows together. You already saw. I mean, the shows were packed. The reaction of the audiences, we already knew. We need to get on this fucking train. And so we went to the IHOP, and we walked over to his booth. He's like, "Oh, Scott, Danny, like, what are you doing?"
You know, the audacity of these guys, you know?
They're like, "Oh, we brought you that demo again. We brought you another copy in case you needed it."
They come to me, and they're really disturbing me. They really got on my nerves when they came to me at that House of Pancakes.
He goes, I think it's really good. I'm like, how good? Like, are we ready? Are we ready? Like, are we going to do this? He's like, by the way, we're eating pancakes. You know, like, can we finish breakfast?
But they said to me, Johnny, this is produced by Ross the Boss. Now, I knew Ross very much from Manowar. And I was very, very impressed that Ross would do something for them.
Scott was hounding John Z about signing the band. Sign us.
So I said, I'll give it a real special listen. And that was Soldiers of Metal.
And John Z signed them.
Now that Soldiers of Metal single really knocked my socks off and showed a vast improvement in where the band was heading.
The more we wrote, the better Danny got.
Got signed to Megaforce Records because Johnny Z saw something in us. he could tell that we were really starting to latch on to something here. I mean, we were, an original band.
And it was time then to say, okay, guys, let's put you in the studio. Let's give you a shot. And that's what happened. And the story about Anthrax in the studio is a whole other story.
We all drove up to Rochester, New York to record our first album at Paul Curcio's place, and Metallica had recorded Kill 'Em All there.
September of '83. We got 3 weeks of studio time booked.
And we got there, and shit was not there.
We get in the control room, and there's no mixing desk. There's no console. Are they putting a board in tomorrow or something? Because aren't we starting the record like 2 days from now? And he's like, no, the new desk is coming in like a couple weeks.
No one knew what was going on. I remember sleeping on the floor there, and then waking up the next day to figure out where are we going? What are we gonna do now?
Carl's like, I know there's some other studios in upstate New York. We'll figure it out.
I don't even know how Carl fits in the equation, but all of a sudden it was like Carl from the Rods is gonna produce the record.
I don't know if Carl had that kind of prestige or anything.
And we loved the Rods. We loved Carl. I thought he was an awesome drummer.
Regional proximity. We recorded in Ithaca, and Carl lived in Cortland, New York, right down the road from there.
And that's what happened. He just ended up producing our first record. Scott and Danny Spitz drove to a place called Elmira, New York, to look at another studio, and then Pyramid Sound. Like the sky just kind of parted, and it was like, guys, go to Pyramid Sound. We met Alex Perialis, who owned the studio, one of the greatest people ever. Now you have to understand, we were in the studio once or twice prior to that, but this was the real deal. This was us recording our first album, and we didn't have much money to do it, so it had to be done quick. And that's what we did. We recorded it quick.
80% of it, probably, 80% of it is Danny's riffs.
Oh, it's very kind of him. It's actually true. I did write, I guess, about 75% of the music on Fistful of Metal. Like that evil thing at the beginning of Death Rider, that was me.
Danny brought a lot to the band back then, too. I loved playing with him. He was a great musician, just a good dude. Danny would always write the parts like in Madhouse, down, 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 down. That was Lilker.
Some of the songs we had written very recently, but some of them I think we already had for a while.
If you listen to Fistful of Metal, there's about 5 songs that were written prior to me being in the band, and then there was the rest that was written after I came into the band, and we just changed the whole sound. And it was something that I wanted to do. Songs like Metal Thrashing Mad, Death Rider, Death from Above. That was all the songs that I helped create, and that's where I wanted to go.
He's inventing a new drumming style.
It's funny because that album has such a great drum sound on it. There was this pretty much brand new Gretsch kit, and it sounded so sweet. That's the kit that's on the first album. It's on Spreading the Disease. It's on the SOD record. It's on Among the Living as well.
So I had to do a lot of singing. There was a lot of singing that needed to get done.
He's got her in the control room. We're like, okay, go ahead, go for it, dude. You're gonna kill it, whatever. Goes in the booth, and he sang like half a line of one of the songs. He stopped.
It took a long time to get some of that stuff done.
And he goes, Spitz, I read an article once that Halford sings just 1 or 2 words at a time, so that's the way I'm gonna do this, so shut the fuck up.
I was not at a place where, I am today, where I would be more efficient in terms of the time in the studio, knowing how to approach that.
I think it became apparent to us, even at that moment in the studio, I think we already realized we were going to have a problem.
Neil Turbin, the singer on the first album, I always loved his voice. He kind of had this, a bit of a Paul Stanley type of vibe to his voice.
There was a point in time where I hadn't listened to Fistful of Metal in a really long time. I put it on, and I think the thing that surprised me the most was how many high notes he hits. I didn't remember it being so Halford.
I wish I could go back and redo it. In fact, that's what I'd like to do.
I think it's a good sounding record for one thing.
It's exciting. We got a fucking album coming out.
It came out the way it did, and fortunately it came out the way it did. The impact that was made when I was in the band and the impact that was made by Fistful of Metal, I mean, I think the fans will let you know.
As a 19-year-old kid, so excited to be on my first record. I'm pretty sure I was received pretty damn well. I was thrown out of that band literally, I think, 3 or 4 days before Fistful of Metal came out.